Welcome to the first of our 4 candidates forums presented by the Woodstock Democratic Committee. We have We have tried to make these forums as factual and unbiased as possible. Our moderator, who you'll meet in a minute, is not from Woodstock and has no stake in our elections or in any of the issues we will discuss during these sessions. She's independent and will moderate the forums as she sees fit. The WDC has had no input during the sessions. In order to know which issues and questions are most important to you, we conducted an online survey of Woodstock voters, and I have, sorry, I don't have my glasses because they fog up. And we have factored in your responses to the content and format of the forums. You will have a chance to meet the candidates and ask questions of them personally at the WDC's meet and greet on June 22nd and any other candidate events that you find out about. We have not shared any of the questions we're asking with the candidates or their campaigns. We have only told them about the format, rules, and the main issues that you told us you wanted addressed. Environment, including climate and water, development, including housing and zoning, and accountability and management, including personnel and the police department. We are recording these forums so that many more people other than all of you here today can watch them at their convenience, or you can re-watch them. Please remain quiet so that each candidate's statements will be clearly heard on the videos. And that's actually really important. Every little shift in your chair, every cough, cell phones, all that stuff will detract from the recordings, which is important. So again, thank you for coming and taking time out of your lives to learn about our candidates. You are why we do this. You are why democracy works. So far. And now I would like to introduce you to our moderator, Christine Dinsmore, who will review the ground rules for the forums. Christine?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Yes. First of all, I want to apologize to the people who I have my back to. It's a little uncomfortable. Can't see if you're making faces at me. Anyway, my apologies for my back. Thank you for coming here, and thank you to the Woodstock Democratic Committee for asking me to in fact, moderate. I don't have any ponies in the race. My only job here, in addition to asking questions, is to make sure that we have an atmosphere where all of the candidates can put their best foot forward, and I hope you help me with that. Normally, I am a little more informal, but because I know that the format is important and the issues are important, I'm going to read the beginning part, okay? So the general purpose, there will be 4 forums and a 5th meet and greet. Each forum has a particular purpose or theme. Tonight's forum is designed for each candidate to introduce themselves and demonstrate what they have to offer as candidates and why you should consider voting for them. This is not a debate, nor a platform to discredit or disparage their opponents, but rather to focus on their knowledge of the role and responsibilities of the position and their qualifications in executing the job. I actually should be saying that to you rather than them. The format. The questions have been selected from submitted questions from the public who responded to the Woodstock Democratic Committee's outreach to registered Democrats. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes to answer specific questions. I may ask a follow-up question after an answer if I feel like it wasn't clear or I needed clarification. And if that's the case, you'll have 30 seconds to respond to that. We ask the audience to refrain from applauding until the end of the program. Also a reminder that there is no electioneering in the building, including posters or flyers. And not that this needs to be said, but any interruption of a candidate from the audience or other candidates will result in that candidate having more time added to their response. Despite your enthusiasm, I have to say, I've been in campaigns, I know we get enthusiastic, but despite your enthusiasm for candidates, please refrain from jeering or cheering. Finally, this forum is being recorded and will be posted to the WDC website and Facebook page within the next day or so. Let me now introduce our timekeeper, Susan Bissonette. She will give you a 30-second warning, a 15-second warning, and then that's it. Okay?
And then the bell rings.
So let me introduce the candidates. You can actually clap after I introduce the candidates. How's that? So running for town supervisor is Anula Cordis. Erin Moran and David Wallace. Running for town council is Lily Kolrikoff, Marcel Nagel, and Lori Osmond. Thank you all for throwing your hat in the race. With that said, candidates, are you ready to make your opening statements? And what we will do is we'll begin with the supervisors and then the town council, and we're going to begin left to right, and then each question slide over one. So left to right, that means Ms. Cortis, you go first.
Thank you very much to the Democratic Committee for hosting this event tonight. I want to use a few seconds of my introduction to thank our police and our fire rescue workers who contained an oil spill earlier this morning that was critical near the Sawkill, so a big shout out to those folks. My name is Anula Cordis. I am a sitting council person here in Woodstock, and I'm grateful to be here as a candidate for town supervisor. Woodstock is a town built on creativity, on kindness, and a deep-rooted sense of community. I look forward to sharing my vision with you tonight. A little bit of a background about me. I'm a first-generation American. My dad came from Greece when he was 12 years old. My mom came from Poland when she was 12 years old, and they met in New Jersey, and the rest is, I guess, how I got here. So I founded 3 healthcare technology companies in my career. All of them were focused on making medications available to people who didn't have that access. I also co-founded a local women's march, helped to establish a human rights commission here in Woodstock, and I was elected to the town council. Thank you everyone for your trust and for your vote. On the town board, I led efforts to secure a 10% property tax reduction for our fire and rescue personnel. I worked to write and get passed 2 fairer short-term rental resolutions that balance our residents with visitors, businesses, and investors. I chaired and continue to chair a BEAR task force. We wrote legislation that we hope will pass this month. We ran a county-wide art contest encouraging youth to participate in art shows here in Woodstock. We are the colony of the arts. We did that in collaboration with the library, with the schools, with WHAM, the Rotary Club, and the DEC and Land Conservancy. And it showed us that Woodstock can get together to support good causes. I hosted a town hall on water issues so that there was information and clarity on what PFAS and those chemicals are. And I collaborated with the state and county officials. I also serve on the board of the Good Neighbor Pantry. But vision, safe, accessible roads, working with complete streets, affordable and moderate income housing, a safe and welcoming space for seniors and programs for youth. We need police reform, and there will be a whole session dedicated to that. Improved communication with better technology and transparency, tightened environmental protections. I believe in Woodstock, its spirit and potential.
Thank you. Erin, you're next.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I want to say thanks to everyone for coming out. Love this town. Hi, I'm Erin Moran. I'm running for town supervisor. I grew up here. Just a little bit about me. I went to Woodstock Elementary, graduated from Onteora. I went to Ulster. I got a degree in math, and I went on to Webster University, and I have a degree in a bachelor's in business management. So I wanted to use my opening statement to talk about my vision for Woodstock. I returned to Woodstock, and after being away.
Can we turn the sound up just a hair up in the back?
Can you hear me now? I think I have to, okay. Okay, I think, okay, sorry. So after I returned to Woodstock, I saw that there had been some changes that happened, some good, some bad, and one thing that kind of stuck out was I feel like Woodstock needs a strong leader. We need a leader that can make make tough decisions, that they can act on those decisions, and we need a strong leader who has thick skin. Woodstock always stood for something greater than just being a small town in upstate New York that was famous for a festival that never happened here. Woodstock was always a community that was tolerant of different ideas, right? Emphasis on the word different. It's a community where people have been kind to each other. And I think we can get that back, I really do. I think everyone is ready for it. After talking to you, I really do believe that. I believe that we can achieve that through leadership. A town board and a town supervisor that respect each other. I have plans to restore civility to the town board meetings. So imagine a town board member who votes against an idea, which is a really great idea, but because they personally don't like that person, they're gonna vote against it. That's just not fair to the residents of Woodstock. So that's part of what I think that we can change, and I plan on leading by example to change that. Another thing that I want to point out is looking back at Woodstock, also looking forward. I think we need to address some of the pressing needs that are in front of us now. One is affordable housing. I think that we can actually get to affordable housing by working with green developers. It's a compromise. We've got to do a little bit of both. We have an infrastructure that's kind of in disarray. We need to be proactive, not reactive. No more fixing things because they're broken. We need to bring everything up to snuff, and we need to get on a maintenance plan. We need to lead by example, and I plan on doing that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace.
Well, they sat me on the right. Maybe should be on the left. Too many people in Woodstock ask themselves a horrendous question. Should I keep my family warm, or should we skip dinner? Heat or eat? And that situation is getting worse because of the Trump administration's war on the poor. Cutting SNAP trickles down. I recently met a local hero who steps into the breach. I call him the Woodsman. He drove around in a beat-up pickup truck, delivering free firewood to his sick and struggling neighbors. I wrote about the Woodsman in The Guardian, but soon after my story ran, his truck suddenly died. So I raised my hand to help. We launched a GoFundMe to buy the Woodsman a better truck. But when we finally found a 2018 Dodge Ram with low mileage, fundraising still fell short. So I went on Radio Woodstock and Radio Kingston, and I spread the word through social media. And soon, over 350 donors contributed more than $30,000. The Woodsman was back on the road, and that's what can happen when you take decisive action, communicate clearly, and rally your neighbors. I've been in the area since 2004. I've served my community as a member of Woodstock's fire department and as a school board trustee. I'm a former union member, and I've covered injustice and innovation for publications including the New York Times and The Nation. For 6 years, I helped lead the Economic Hardship Reporting Project founded by Barbara Ehrenreich. During my time there, our budget nearly tripled, and our journalistic output almost quintupled. If elected supervisor, my reporting experience will prove useful. Journalists analyze problems, interview experts across the political spectrum, and offer solutions. But right-wing journalists have those skills. I'm a Democrat. I'm the kind of Democrat who supports workers, not corporate power, cares for the sick, not insurance companies, protects the environment, not polluters, and bolsters the safety net, doesn't rip it apart. I have a practical plan to make Woodstock more affordable, especially for our vulnerable neighbors. We can expand the property tax exemption for disabled residents and seniors. We can eliminate summer camp fees. We can create a free shuttle for seniors. We can finally clean up the illegal shady dump that threatens our drinking water and our property values. We can stop new zoning proposals, which will lead to more million-dollar condos and lawsuits, and probably not affordable housing. We can hire a grant writer to find new funding sources, and together we can lift people up who are just hanging on. And that mission defines me as a journalist, as a neighbor, and as a Democrat. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the Town Council candidates, and I'm going to begin with Ms. Karlikoff.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome. I think the main question proposed in this forum is who are you as a candidate and as a person? And I think that's a very important.
Louder, please.
I'm right in. Is that better? Okay, sorry. I think the main question proposed in this forum is who are you as a candidate and as a person? And I think that's an important and honest baseline to begin with, engaging who is truly fit to shape our town. This might be the mic. This is as loud as I can make.
The mic.
Try again. Lily, try again.
Is that better? Yeah? Okay, cool. Sorry, everybody. All right,
And talk right into the mic.
right into the mic. I gotta eat this mic. All right, so I'm the proud product of a true blue-collar family. My parents' parents and my father struggled their way into the country under exceedingly harsh circumstances, believing in the American dream and that hard work, honesty, and integrity would ultimately lead to a life of security, safety, and freedom. My mother was a bartender, my father was a stagehand and carpenter, and come from a long line of artists. Ultimately, I followed in all those footsteps. I come from a stagehand background where I was a union stagehand for 12 years. I toured all around the world. I led crews as a 20-something-year-old woman, often in other countries and jurisdictions with different rules and regulations and customs. There was a lot of very quick thinking that had to be done, and a lot of pivoting, and a lot of learning how to appeal to the needs of the people that you were working with to get things done. And I believe, in terms of the vision for Woodstock that I have, I think that we really just have to focus on getting things done that have been sitting on the table for a very long time. I think we're a town that loves task force and committees, but we have a hard time implementing their recommendations. And so we sit on things and let problems get worse instead of taking proactive, sometimes hard decisions that are necessary. And now we've fallen very, very far behind in things like affordable housing and environmental regulations and police reform and all these things. And all these things are tied into issues that we talk about, and we talk about in very frank ways. We have an aging population. Our median age here is 63 years old. However, no one can walk on the sidewalks. Children of these aging, I don't want to say aging because it sounds a little derogatory, but people would like to come up here and support their families. I came up here to support my father, who's now 80. I think those opportunities are rapidly declining here. And if we're going to talk about issues, we have to realize that they're very interconnected. So in terms of what I would like to do is bring the community back together. We have a lot of great volunteers and a lot of great spirit, but when we don't appreciate and honor the values of that volunteerism and that base, we don't get anything done and we don't move forward. And people become disillusioned and don't get involved in the process and don't try to help each other. Furthermore, sorry, thank you.
Mr. Nagel.
That's me. So I'm not going to be as smooth talking as everybody else probably, because I'm not a public speaker. I never expected to be in a position like this. I figured running for political office was about as likely as becoming a public speaker. But I've seen enough in the years that I've been involved in town matters to bring me to this point. This election provides an opportunity to bring new people and new energy to several elected positions. It's a chance for the voters to say enough is enough regarding what we've had in recent years, that we need to make changes. As to my vision, I look forward to, I don't think it's working. As to my vision, I look forward to a change in thought process where our community leaders will not wage a legal defense against the citizens of our town who have suffered at the hands of illegal dumpers leaving contaminated sites in violation of Woodstock's laws. Where our leaders will stand by our citizens who are victims of workplace harassment and sexual abuse, where we protect our town from becoming an over-congested, environmentally damaged, and unaffordable suburb, where enforcement of town laws and codes will be applied equitably and judiciously for all of our citizens, where we work diligently to assist the most vulnerable members of our community, whether it be infringement of their civil rights, having shelter during inclement weather, or being able to find affordable housing. My qualifications aren't typical of those who often run for office. I come from a working class beginning. I started working part-time for a retired attorney who was going blind when I was 12. I worked for the Birdcliff Art Colony for 22 years. I've operated several small businesses in this community, including the one I continue to operate today, a land grading, excavation, and trucking business. I was lucky enough to have a series of older mentors in my life who taught me the values of hard work, integrity, friendship, following the rules, and generosity to others. I don't have fancy letters after my name, but I have real life experience, including being an advocate for those who need one. If elected, I will approach my responsibilities with due diligence and transparency. I'm asking the voters to give me the opportunity to prove myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Osmond.
Okay, I don't have a very loud voice, but I'll do my best. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Lori Osmond, and I'm running for a seat on the town council. I moved to Woodstock in 2004. I grew up on Long Island, and I was drawn to Woodstock, and once I got here, I felt like this was the place I always wanted to be. I raised my daughter here. She's now 23. And during my time here, I served on the Onteora Board of Education for 14 years, most of the time as a board officer, either board president or board vice president. I ran for re-election 4 times successfully. I took a little break from that, and then I served for a short while as deputy town supervisor for the town of Woodstock. And that was a very enlightening experience and made me really want to continue to serve the town and to focus on the town. I've also been volunteering for 2 years on the Youth Center Task Force with the town, helping to bring to the fore a master plan proposal for the revitalization of Andy Lee Field in order to turn the field into an intergenerational recreational space for all Woodstockers. I really believe in this town, and I think that a lot of things must change. We need to have much greater transparency and communication in our town government. We need to focus on collaboration, not combativeness. We need to get things done rather than let them sit, whether it be affordable housing, police reform, promoting ourselves as the colony of the arts in accordance with our comprehensive plan, working with the townspeople for the betterment of the entire town. And also things like supporting our school. I honestly believe that every elected representative and every candidate should be supporting Woodstock Elementary to keep the school open and keep our families here, who we so need. Sorry, is that time?
No.
Oh, okay. I also think, I really applaud the work of Complete Streets to address the really sad state of our sidewalks and the work they're doing to create bike lanes and interconnected trails. I think these are things that we need to keep doing. And not get bogged down in the, I would say, the lack of leadership, frankly, that I've seen on the town board because of the infighting that's happened and wasting people's time. As Ms. Karlkoff said, people volunteer for years at a time, and sometimes that goes unnoticed. So I'm here to do my best, to pitch in, and to work for the good of Woodstock. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the first question, I want to remind folks to please silence your phone.
Can't hear you in the back. Silence your phone.
Okay, we've asked to take a short pause so that they can move people closer. So I don't know how long that'll be, but in any event, silence your phone, please. We'll start again. The next section, as they're moving, we'll have the first question. And it again will go first to the town supervisors, but we're going to move over one so that the same person isn't beginning and ending. So we're going to begin the first question with you, Ms. Moran. Okay, and the question is, what inspired you to run for office, and was there any specific event that motivated you to throw your hat in the ring?
Okay, well, what inspired me to run for office, can you all hear me in the back? Okay, using two hands. So I actually have been involved with the town in the capacity of a volunteer for quite some time now. I think it's even over 10 years. And in that time, I've thought about running, and something always happened to come up, whether it was a candidate that I thought was maybe better fit or what have you. This time around, I think that I looked around and I thought, I also had a few people say to me, you really should throw your hat in. I also thought that I could do the best job, given the landscape. So that is what really motivated me to do it this time. The pieces fell into place, and I am confident that I will be able to actually get things done. And in that time, I've developed relationships with other town officials, with officials on the county level and even the state level. I really broadened my network, so I think I can really continue to do that and bring it back to Woodstock. And I'm sorry, there was a second part.
I asked if there might be a specific event that motivated you.
Well, back in 2014 was when I started, and that was when the DEP opened up hiking and hunting to recreation. I attended my first town board meeting, which is actually a lot like this, standing room only. And I wasn't happy with the way things went, which is why I joined the Environmental Commission, because I wanted to make a difference. And I, since then, have been actively pursuing protecting the environment and working with the town officials to make sure that we could, as an advisory board, have as much influence as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Wiles, would you like me to repeat the question? Or do you have it?
No, I think I've got it.
Okay.
I thought about running first when I approached an employee of the town after we had an environmental crisis, and we're going to have a lot of them, which was the Canadian wildfires were fouling the air. Do you remember how it was black in the day, it was red in the day? And I thought about the kids in the youth center who could not breathe outside and had to play inside. So I asked a person at the youth center, do we have a HEPA filter in there? And he said, no. I said, can we get one? It's about a few $100s. And he said, let me check a bill. And I thought, well, it's a natural, it's just a natural sort of thing that you want to protect the kids, their health, their lungs. But the answer came back no. And I thought that's a situation that is a problem. There's micromanagement, and I don't think that it was beneficial for all the kids. And I've seen that again and again and again. So I'll just say that the front door of this building is broken and has been broken for weeks and weeks. If I'm supervisor, I'm going to make an effort to get that door fixed. Hopefully it'll be fixed before I'm elected. But what does it say about a community that the front door of our town hall is not working? And you scratch the surface and there are problems, and I believe that I have the skill set to identify those problems and fix them. And I could really go on about things that I see and detect, and I'd like to change for the better.
Ms. Cordes, would you like me to repeat the question, or do you have it? You got it.
I got the question. Thank you. If I have to pick one time, the thing that had me run for any office, and including this one, I actually chaired the Human Rights Commission, and it was so difficult to get anything done. It took forever. And it took a lot of negotiating, a lot of discussions, a lot of just a dog on a bone. And I am a dog on a bone, but I watched my colleagues on that commission almost give up. And so I took on more work, I pushed through, and we got it done, to the town's credit. And I just thought that it doesn't have to be that difficult. We can remove some of these hurdles and create a pathway to progress. And that's really the moment and the time when I decided to run. I believe that I have the ability to look at multiple pieces and different scenarios that are happening all at once, and to creatively problem solve those and the intersections with the other ones. So for instance, our streets and the elders, we don't have a Human Rights Commission, but we need one. So why don't we start that up again? And how does that tie into what's happening on a national level? Housing, we want young families to come here. We have to also be mindful of removing the barriers to housing and doing that in a very thoughtful way and faster. So I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. So we're now going to go to the town council. Same question. Would you like me to repeat it, or do you have it?
Is that me for me?
You, Mr. Nagel, goes first.
Yeah. So why did I decide to run? I've been living in Woodstock all of my adult life, and I just don't like the direction that our government's affairs are being handled. One instance that really got me interested in the way the town does business was an illegal site development right next door to me. And it should have been as simple as a phone call to the proper department, the building and zoning department, and a stop order should have been issued immediately. Instead, an associate and I had to spend $27,000 to get that project shut down. But that really pales in comparison to the next thing that came along that got me really involved, which was the shady dump. And that, to me, that's where I'm coming. That's really what motivated me to running, because I'm so involved in that, and I can see what I feel are so many missteps and just poor decisions. And I can't explain the poor decisions. So, that's really been a big event for me. But I think I've got the skills, believe it or not. If I can sit at the table with my colleagues, hopefully, and bring the documentation to the table and have the discussion in front of the people. If I read a document from the DEC that says there's exceedances at a site, and it's a violation of the law, the people need to hear that and see that document, and that's what I'll do. I am all for transparency and keeping it civil and moving things forward. So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Ms. Osmond?
Thanks. So what inspired me to run was the overall arching issue of lack of transparency on the town board and lack of communication. The Shady Dump is one example. All of us should have been able to understand completely clearly what was going on with that. And it always felt like there was information missing, or there was something that wasn't communicated in a way that people really felt that they were being told the truth and that they had the whole picture. I saw people work for years on committees and task forces, and their work would just kind of stagnate and nothing would get picked up, nothing would get done. After, as I said, I was on the school board, and after taking a break from that, I really wanted to give back to my community. I'm really passionate about things for our kids and things for all Woodstockers. I'm very passionate about our schools. I'm very passionate about trying to keep Woodstock Elementary as the thriving heart of the community that it is. I'm very passionate about trying to create something better at the youth center and at Andy Lee Field for all Woodstockers, so it can be a space that's used by all generations. And I really feel like two of my strengths are I'm a very good connector of people, and I'm collaborative. And I really saw a lack of that on the town board. I saw more infighting than I did collaboration, and I think that completely needs to be overhauled, and I'm willing to step up and do my best to be part of that.
Ms. Karlikoff?
So, quite frankly, what inspired me to run was my son. When we moved up here, a lot of you might know me from opening the Station Bar, which has some controversies of its own. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But when we moved up here, we opted to come to a place that had different values other than making money, and that was kind of the name of the game in the city, and I wanted to have time to spend with my son. And it was more affordable, and we could afford to make less money and find housing and live what I considered a better life. After opening the business and renting houses, the COVID epidemic hit, and we were basically displaced. We had real estate agents coming into our rented home at all hours of the day without knocking. We had everything that we were looking at in terms of buying a house turned into a short-term rental. Our opportunities went out the window. Additionally, in experiencing kind of some of the inadequacies of the current administration, we, as you all probably know, have a noise ordinance issue in this town. 7 years ago, we began with a noise ordinance that's actually a copy and pasted noise ordinance from Saugerties, and it didn't fit basically past practice and everything that people had told me was allowed. That was people on the town board, in the supervisor's office, at the planning board, as in the building department. So we ended up having to kind of figure out on our own what was considered reasonable, and that should never be a position that a business or a person should have to be in. I mean, that is the job of a town board, and is, you know, a legislature is to create well-crafted, thoughtful, and comprehensive laws so that people don't have to sit around and interpret them all the time. And I feel like we are not doing any of that stuff. And then I have an 80-year-old father, and this Halloween was the first time that he couldn't walk from the bar to the Village Green because he felt like he was gonna fall down. So those are my kind of top threes.
I'd like a clarification, to Ms. Osmond. You mentioned the Woodstock school closing, and I don't know if anyone has this answer, but does the town board have do they have any input into that?
The town board could do a memorializing resolution like the Shandaken Town Board did to voice their displeasure with the direction of the closure of Phoenicia Elementary. And I also think that as a town citizen, we need to get involved with what affects us. I mean, look at how many Woodstockers fought Terramore and got something done there. I think that a school is the heartbeat of a town. It draws families, it retains families. Small, nurturing village schools have been proven to be really, really important. And that's why I'm very vociferously advocating a no vote on Proposition 2 on May 20th, because I do not think that we should be spending borrowing $55 million to centralize the campus just to absorb the K through 3 that are in Woodstock now. Because it's an enormous construction project that will be on the burden of all taxpayers in the district.
Okay, it was 30 seconds, but I
got it.
So the answer is no, they can't, but you're feeling that they should do a memorializing?
I think it affects the town. I think the town needs to speak up. I think individuals need to speak up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go to question 2. Right? No, did you? Yeah, you did. Okay, I'm sorry. That's right. We're back to you. So I'd like to now again to the supervisors. What are the role and responsibilities of the town supervisor? What distinguishes the supervisor's role from a council member? And where do you believe the supervisor should unilaterally make decisions, and where should they collaborate? And we'll begin with Mr. Wallace.
The supervisor sets the agenda, and that's literally and figuratively. He's the, or she is the person who has to rally the town board and also manage the staff. Another supervisor who I interviewed as I'm learning about this job and talking to different people said it's the loneliest position in the town. And I thought that was sort of amazing, you know, a thought. So you have to both rally the town board, keep in good communication with them, and you also have to manage the staff and also think about the agenda. And I'm just going to talk about one a practical way that I would set the agenda. We don't have a mass alert system in this town to notify people quickly of by text and in different languages of a crisis like could have happened today. We had an oil truck that crashed, and luckily it was just an oil truck and it seems to be contained. I'm sorry, but what I was going to say is that if it had been something incredibly toxic and like a gas or a hazmat situation, we may have needed to act fast and alert for evacuation. We don't have a quick system for that, and it cost, the town of Shandaken does, it cost them $900 and we've a year. And it would probably cost us more because that contract was done a long time ago, but I believe that having foresight and being proactive is the job one of the supervisor.
Thank you. Ms. Cordes?
The job of the supervisor, in addition to setting the agenda, is to manage some employees, not all employees, to be responsible for the fiscal well-being and the budget for the town, and some other things that the supervisor is responsible for, to rally for what he or she believes is right, and to communicate with the public why. I think that's a really important thing that that a supervisor should and can do. And also something that I believe a supervisor is responsible for is, let's say, I'm going to pick a little bit on the police department here. I see the chief standing back there. So the chief has to manage the officers, but the supervisor should be responsible for that relationship with the chief, whether it's a good topic or a negative topic, and for acting in a swift manner to ensure that we have a safe environment for employees and for the residents of our town. So I think that's the responsibility of a supervisor.
Do you think there's a time for a supervisor to unilaterally act without the board?
I think that there is a time. So my understanding is that not every single thing has to go to the town board. I think that if a supervisor in fact builds a good relationship with that town board, that in fact it should happen in executive session. However, if there's a significant danger to the town or to employees in the town, I think the supervisor has to rally and get as many votes as possible. So is that unilateral? I'd have to think about that and see, you know, is that, you walk away happy with that 3-2 vote? Or do you work really hard to get a 5-0 vote to do what's right? As a supervisor, I would collaborate with town board members and employees of the town to, in fact, do what's right in a swift manner.
Ms. Moran.
Hi, can you hear me? So actually, this is something I looked into because I thought, well, if I'm running for town supervisor, I better know what I'm running for. So I did actually look at the local law, state law, local law, all of the above. So the role of the supervisor, first off, I would like to say the supervisor is a member of the town board. They are a team of 5, and I say that because they're a team, and I hope to have a strong team, and I hope to make decisions together. I have been on teams in my corporate career, and I know I'll bring this to the table. Setting the agenda, yes, is something the supervisor needs to do. I think that I would have that agenda communicated well in advance so that the town board members could actually look into it, ask questions, flesh out any unknowns. I think that that's important to the actual meetings running smoothly and effectively. The town supervisor also runs the meeting. So they're responsible for making sure that a meeting moves forward. Issues come up, they always do. It's important to know when to table an issue or when you have to actually deal with it right then and there. This is how you have an effective town board and a town board meeting. The supervisor prepares, here we go for the real important one, guys, prepares the budget and gives it to the town board and manages the budget all through the year. This is a big one. Out of the 3 candidates up here, I actually have several years, 9 years experience as a staff accountant. I've worked with, I'm no stranger to budgets, so I've worked with budgets from hundreds of thousands of dollars to multi-million, and the town currently has collectively about a little over $9 million budget. So I would hate to see that go into the hands of someone who didn't quite know what they were doing. Lastly, the supervisor is also the social welfare officer. People probably don't realize that. I did try and find out what that means, and basically that is when you work directly with residents who are in need of emergency services, usually dealing with heat and hot water, and they make sure that that resident is taken care of.
Thank you. So we're going to go to the town council members, and we're going to begin with Ms. Osmond. And it's the same question, only what are the roles and responsibilities of the town council? And I would change that from when do they act unilaterally of what are some of the town council can do that the town board doesn't do, that the town supervisor doesn't do. And
Well, I think that town council members should be the eyes and ears of the community. I think that they should be out and about discussing all of the issues and listening to people, asking them what they want, asking them what's important to them, and then bringing it back to the supervisor, bringing it back, requesting that items get put on the agenda, and also looking into solutions for people. And if it's not a solution for one person to take on, then bringing it up to the board to address, or at least directing that person to the right people that they should be speaking to. But I believe that elected town council members especially need to remember that they are there to do the work of the people. They are there for the greater good. They're there to be the eyes and ears and to listen and not to become rigid in their positions. And I think it's really, really important to be of service. I think that's the main thing that we should be doing, is to be of service.
thank you. Ms. Kolikoff?
Thank you. I agree a lot with what Lori said. I think a big thing for a town board member is to respond directly to community concerns and prioritize those and make sure that the supervisor can hear what people are saying even if they can't get to him directly. I think that there is a level of decorum and respect that has to exist and be supported within the, just not on the town board, but between all the departments. And accountability, having the ability to explain the reasons that you make the decisions that you make. That goes back into transparency in a lot of ways, but sometimes people make decisions and you can't really tell why they're making them, and I think it's a really important thing to be able to explain your feelings and the data that you're going through and the process of making a decision and doing that openly. Yeah, that's in short.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel.
Yeah, so, a town board member we don't call day-to-day operations or anything like that. The supervisor is responsible for day-to-day operations, but the town board has a responsibility to do their research on every town matter that requires attention. But one of the important things is that the town board members get transparency from the supervisor down. So, without that, the town board gets set up for failure. If the information that comes through the town offices and through the supervisor doesn't come down to the town board members, they're potentially being set up for failure by making an uninformed decision. So again, it's really about transparency.
I'd like follow-up for the three of you. Could you distinguish the difference between a town council member and the supervisor?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that the town supervisor is responsible to present the budget, and he is responsible for the day-to-day operations that aren't the town board member's responsibility. And employees of the town report up to their department heads, and the department heads report up to the supervisor. And information that becomes necessary to be dealt with and has to have discussion, that information has to be handed down to the town board for a discussion. And I think that's,
That's 30 seconds each, so could you say something, Ms. Husband?
Yeah, sure. So I do think that the difference between a town council member and the town supervisor is, yes, the town supervisor does set the agenda and they do draft the budget, and then it is their responsibility to explain it well to the town council members, give them all of the information they need in ample time for them to review it and make sure that everyone has a clear understanding of what's being asked of them or what the issues are in front of them. I think that the town supervisor also needs to set the tone, and town board members need to follow that as collaboratively as possible.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Garlikoff.
Thank you. I will second, other than salary differentials, the supervisor is really, really responsible for the tone and disseminating information in a clear and concise way. But I think it's also very important that the supervisor be able to recognize when there is internal issues on the town board and manage those, or in terms of other departments also. And being able to recognize and work together with people and squash problems before they become bigger problems is, I think, one of the key things, and having someone that's able to listen is very big.
Thank you. So we go to the next question. It'll begin with the supervisors, and we will begin with Ms. Cortes, right? Okay. In a general sense, since you have just 2 minutes and the future forums will focus on specific issues, in a general sense, what do you see as 3 key issues for the town, and briefly, how would you address them? And again, remember, you have a time constraint.
This is almost like a trick question, 2 minutes. Okay, so the environment. Number 1, we need to tighten up the laws and figure out how to enforce that. So how would I do that? Collaboratively with environmental groups. We've got experts. The Environmental Commission fell apart. I would reinstate that with the right members on it, and we would get to work. And I envision a big WEC, a big environmental commission with different divisions responsible for water versus other types of environmental concerns. Financially, I think that we're great. So I'm gonna skip over that and move to police. We have a police reimagination task force in place right now. I anticipate that there's going to be some very good recommendations that comes forward out of that task force. And as supervisor, it is my business to work collaboratively with the town board to go ahead and implement those as swiftly as possible. And third, housing, critical. So On my short time on the town board, I have been attending those housing meetings. I have been walking the properties. I have watched when they selected the 3 houses that they want to go to a phase 2 for. And I love the work that the housing group is doing. I believe that we can remove even more barriers for them in housing for lower income and moderate housing. Moderate income people is going to bring economic diversity to Woodstock, and that is a really big priority that ties into some zoning changes, specifically subdivision, so that we're protecting our environment more tightly. And I'm making that my 3A and 3B, so I'm not cheating here, okay? But it's really important that when we start to look at building, we're not looking to build up and spread it out, that we're being very smart about how we build and leverage the
That was
land.
time. Ms. Moran.
Okay, actually, this is a hard question to answer in 2 minutes, but I'm gonna try.
But you have another 3 other forums to go.
This is, okay, it's true. You're very good. Okay, so one issue I think is actually bringing stability back to the town board meetings. I think that right now, the one thing we have working in our favor is that we'll have 3 open seats. We'll have 3 fresh faces, 3, including the supervisor, the new supervisor, and the new 2 town board members. I always refer to the supervisor as part of the town board because they are. I think having those 3 new perspectives is an opportunity. I've actually had some conversations with, I think, actually all of the candidates for town board, and I felt that they were actually really genuine, sincere, and I think that the people who are sitting up here are ready to compromise and ready to listen, and I know I'm looking forward to actually getting some work done. I know personally, I do plan on listening, and not just listening, but when there's an idea that's different, giving that idea fair consideration. One idea I also wanted to throw out there was going into executive session maybe in the beginning. So this way the town board can talk and we can answer questions and we can come to the meeting and sit at the table and all be on the same page and we can have an effective meeting. I think that Woodstock is a community that is suffering from the toxic rhetoric of our government down. I think that we can rise up. I know we can. I've talked to people. We can do it. We want to do it. And now is the time. I think coming together, being respectful, starts with leadership demonstrating that from the top down. And I'm confident that that can happen going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace.
My 3 issues are water, water, and water. Drinking water matters, and it's going to affect our property values, it's going to affect our health. And so I think it's the most critical issue that needs to be dealt with by the next supervisor. So what does it mean? 1, hire an independent hydrologist, someone who doesn't have any skin in the game, who is respected maybe from outside the area, maybe from a university. Let's get good data and honest data. And then let's enforce our laws. It's quite clear that dumping went on. It was contaminated refuse. It has not been cleaned up or remediated properly, and therefore we can enforce Woodstock's laws. And that means starting to go to the landowner who accepted that toxic swill, and that's on top of our aquifer, and getting him to pay ultimately for the cleanup of that mess. And I think we may need very soon filtration systems. And that could be reverse osmosis, and that could be a carbon system. I've heard that a carbon system which would take a lot of the forever chemicals right out of our water would be roughly $100,000. I'd spend that, and I hope the board would support me on that. I'd spend that tomorrow, if we could, to get forever chemicals out of our drinking water.
Thank you. So now we're going to the town council, the same question, again, time constraint. 3 top issues and how would you address them? And we'll begin with Ms. Karlikoff.
So my first top issue would be housing and creating affordable housing. And I think the first thing that you would do there is start with short-term rental laws. And I think they need to be updated. They've been long overlooked. There's lots of viable things that were recommended by the Short-Term Rental Task Force and the Affordable Housing Committee. Viable tactics such as tamping down the surge of non-resident SDRs through enforcement of current and proposed SDR laws, along with creating new housing opportunities through adjustments to the zoning code and listening to the needs of the community members. Instead of politicizing and making it seem like these are gigantic changes and that they can't be worked with, we need to dream a little bit bigger and think creatively on these things, because we used to be an artist community, we used to have artist cottages, we don't have those anymore. In terms of, we can also be doing things like, rent control guidelines, tenants' bills of rights, incentivizing long-term rentals, all those good things. Secondly, the environment. I think that we all know about the Church Road debacle and the recent spikes of PFAS detected in our water, but we also have to realize that the vastness of our aquifer presents many opportunities for different levels of hazardous contamination. We could be learning more, engaging local businesses such as hardware stores, pharmacies, landscapers, contractors can encourage them to promote greener products and practices. And also in supporting local environmental groups that don't get a lot of publicity, we can actually increase the conversation, increase the awareness, and actually lead to people changing their day-to-day practices and being more aware. And then lastly, I think we should be also celebrating and volunteering and supporting obviously the Complete Streets Committee. I think we do need a grant writer on staff, and the grant writer would give us flexibility within our budget and add options for things that we need to get done that we probably can't afford to. I mean, quite frankly, I don't think that the Church Road site or the town can afford to clean that up, and we have to start looking at outside options beyond what our tax revenue is.
Thank you. Mr. Eagle.
So I don't want to minimize the issue that's going on with the police department at this point, but I believe the police task force is going to do a really good job, and they're going to have some recommendations, and then the town has to follow through with those task force recommendations. The housing issue is a big deal, and it's really complicated. There is no easy answer to that. There's not one location in the town of Woodstock where we can build the housing needs that are going to fulfill the problem. I think it's going to have to be development in several different town-owned parcels. I don't know that the town has the ability to undertake that without involving somebody like RUPCO or one of them other housing authorities. The environment, to me, is a big deal. We all drink water. We have thousands of people that come to this town on a weekly basis. They're drinking the municipal water. It's got contaminants in the water. The EPA, if they don't get overturned by the current federal administration, is in the process of slashing the acceptable level of PFAS in the water from 10 down to 4 parts per trillion. We just came in on March 12th with the highest reading of contaminants in our water, and it's just under that 4 parts per trillion mark. Interestingly enough, I can't say enough good about what was once the Woodstock Environmental Commission. I think that went down in a terrible catastrophe of smoke and fire, but we have a town board that's been sitting here with a supervisor, and really I want to know why that has not been reactivated so far. It's long overdue. It should have been a priority. The Environmental Committee did great work, and it was a big loss to lose that committee.
Ms. Osmond.
Thank you. So there are 3 issues that I think rise to the top, and one of them is process and civility and communication and transparency. I think that we need a new approach of how we do business at the town board. We need a new set of practices. And I think one of the things that could be really helpful would be to require some professional development for town board members, just the way that a school board does for its members. Because that's the foundation. The way the town board conducts its business is going to resonate through every issue that we touch. So I think that really needs to be dealt with. The water and the environment, yes. I know that the DWSP, the Drinking Water Source Protection Program, is working hard to introduce a regimen of source testing and monitoring and sampling and public education. We need to deal with what's going on in Shady. We also need to do source testing and education because PFAS comes from road salt in some cases. It comes from fertilizer. There's a lot of things that we are using as a community, as people, that can get into our water supply, so that has to be dealt with. And I also think that, yes, the Environmental Commission should be revitalized and brought back to life and made even more robust than it was. And the third thing is housing. I think that we should be working with a nonprofit like RUPCO. I know that Woodstock has looked into its town properties, and I think that they can, one or more than one can be utilized in a way that's sensible and that's dignified without cannibalizing one of our really important parking lots and relegating people to a parking lot with no green space. I think people deserve better, and I think Woodstock can make that happen with the help of a nonprofit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, this is going to be our last question. And after the last question, I'll do a little wrap up, and then you can give a round of applause. So last question, wrap up, and then we'll show our appreciation. So our last question, again, beginning with the supervisors, and it'll be Ms. Moran who will start first, and I'm going to actually read the question. What specific skills, experiences, qualities do you have to make you qualified to lead or collaborate on these issues? And what, if anything, might potentially get in the way of collaboration, and how would you overcome that to work together for the town?
Thank you. Well, I actually have an extremely strong background in environmental issues in the environment. I was on the commission that you are hearing so much about, and some of you are so familiar with. One thing I do just want to set straight, the commission was not, I see some members back there, hey ladies. There was a great team. We did a lot of great work. We were all really dedicated. We all brought something amazing to the table. We had an environmental scientist. We had someone who was working with the DEP for over 30 years. We had a local artist who was connected and could just we could, provide a handshake with a local resource. We did a lot. What happened was, unfortunately, the meetings got too toxic. At the last meeting that I resigned at, 2 other people resigned with me, and it was because we were unable to actually efficiently push forward an agenda because there was so much disruption from the people that attended the meeting. This is what I'm talking about. We need to get away from this Woodstock. I know we can. The reason there is no WEC and the reason that these things are happening is people are afraid to volunteer in this town, in Woodstock. Our volunteers have done so much over the years, and it's a shame that people don't realize it. That's one thing that I criticize myself about, is not tooting our own horn. But I have been involved in all of these issues. I've been hearing everyone talk about the water, the PFAS, and I think I could bring a lot of expertise and knowledge, and I would love to have more of a dialogue about these issues. I am a very fact-based person. I do like data and following the data. I do not like making decisions based off of some post on social media. I feel that that's actually negligible and reckless. There's a long conversation that needs to be had about all these things, but I think my experience with the environment is a fabulous one, and I'm very proud of it. And that is probably all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wallace, you're up.
First off, I'm not an insider, and I think that actually is a significant benefit in a town where too often a nod and a wink is the way that things get done. And so I'm not part of any faction, and I take things in a factual way and analyze them. That's what reporters do. And by the way, as a reporter, I was part of a winning team on the Excellence in Financial Journalism Award, given by, I believe, the New York State, I think it's the accounting department. I forget the organization, but I won an award in financial journalism, and I do care about budget. So let me just say that. But I believe that I have traits that will benefit me and the town if I am elected by the people. And I believe that I have compassion. I care about my community. I was a volunteer both when COVID happened, as well as after 9/11, which I covered. I was a Red Cross volunteer in New York City after 9/11 happened. So I really do care about my community wherever it is, and I get involved and I put my hand up. And so I believe that my curiosity is going to come in handy. Journalists ask a lot of questions, hopefully talk to a wide-ranging group of experts from all over. I mean, I've sat with Jimmy Carter and Manuel Noriega in jail, and Newt Gingrich, and had good experiences with all of them, shockingly. So I'd love to take those skills and work with the town board to make this town as good a government as it has its people.
Thank you. Ms. Ortiz.
A lot of people don't know, I actually have a similar background, not with Carter, but more for a county paper, and that sense of fairness is something that I do respect. I have leadership qualities. I am also a good member and supportive of other leaders. I am willing to listen to people who I might not start out agreeing with, but I keep an open mind and an open heart. And I talk with people, and during my year on the town board, I've actually built very strong relationships because of this trait, keeping my door is always open. People know that I will respond to them. And so I also am able to, when I hear them, put together creative problem solving. And maybe we meet in the middle this time, and maybe we push things forward. We've done that on the town board. Again, my relationships back that up. And I don't get lost in the forest staring at one tree. So I have the ability to look at the data, but I also see the forest and I see a way through it and out of it. And that's a very important trait, I believe, for supervisor. And quite frankly, I do have a year of experience on the town board. So I've had my hiccups, I've had my bumps, I've got a bruise or 2 or 5, and I've had successes. So that is what I would bring to the table. I'd like the chance to take us in a new direction.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be to the town council, but I'd like to read it again just so we're really clear on it. And we're going to begin with Mr. Nagel, I believe. Again, what specific skills, experiences, qualities do you have that make you qualified to lead or collaborate on issues? And what, if anything, might potentially get in the way of collaboration, and how would you overcome that to work together?
So, when you're self-employed and run a small business, you're the supervisor, you're the board member, you're the CFO, you're the guy that estimates the job, you do the risk assessment. You're responsible for it all. I've been doing that for a long time. I've had very few problems. Actually, I don't know that I've had any major problems. But, to be able to do that, you have to have the transparency. And I'm also a very factual person, and that's where the transparency comes in. If I don't have the documents because it's being selectively withheld, or I'm getting distorted information, I can't make the right decision. And in those instances, when I'm aware that I'm not getting all the information, I'm going to do my best to stop it and slow it down until I've got the information. That's the way I do business. I can read reports. I've handled personal affairs for other people and always been trusted with it. And so, I'd like the opportunity to try to give the town of Woodstock some good direction with a position on the town board.
You have a couple of seconds left. You didn't talk about how you would overcome when there's lack of collaboration.
Well, to overcome lack of collaboration, I think first off we have to look at each other as being on the same field. We're all equals aside from the supervisor who has the responsibility and the added day-to-day things, but when we're on the town board, nobody's superior to the other one. We're all on the same plane.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Osmond?
So I do have a lot of experience on a board, being on the school board, reading budgets, working with personnel matters, dealing with confidential information and all that sort of thing, and the process of how meetings should be run and effective ways to represent. Personally, I think my qualities are that I'm a hard worker, I'm a good listener, I like research, I like talking to people, I'm interested in what they have to say and why. And I think one thing that's very important as a town board member is to strive for a balance. And that's one of the things that's always important to me, is to find balance in a situation, and also to work without ego. You have to be able to admit when you're wrong. You have to be able to listen to someone else's point of view and say, oh, okay, I didn't consider that. Now I see what you're saying. Okay, I'm going to revise my position. Or, yeah, you've changed my mind about that. But I think when ego gets in the way, that's a big problem in governance. And I think it stands in the way of collaboration, and that's what we need most.
Thank you. Ms. Karolkoff?
Okay, so I do come from a debate team background, so very early on in my life, I was really used to learning how to actually research, which I think is a very important thing in a world full of fake news and kind of multiple things that will pop out. And you kind of don't really know always what's true anymore, so I think that's really important. And it's also important to be able to affirm and negate a point and look at it from both sides. I think that's a very, very key issue for me. And I also come from a volunteer background, and I also really, really like talking to people of different walks of life. So I've been a volunteer for the Christmas parade and Halloween parade. I volunteer at the food pantry. I bartend. I talk to a really, really wide assortment of people. And I think more important than talking to them has been listening to them. And it's my favorite thing to do. I think it's so interesting. People are really complex. And I think once you recognize that, despite having different viewpoints, and that goes in kind of, you know, when you're dealing with people that don't want to collaborate on a team, recognizing deficiencies that you might have in how you're thinking and having flexible thinking and being able to be honest with those people and say, listen, there are standards in how communication works and how teams work. And having those kinds of honest conversations is really, really important. And being able to say, this is my shortcoming. I have a shortcoming in understanding your point of view right now. I think things like that are really important, and they get lost a lot. I think everyone wants to be right all the time, and I don't think that that's necessarily the most important thing at the end of the day.
Thank you. So that is the fourth and last question for tonight, and I would like to just do a little bit of a wrap-up. First, I want to thank the audience. You've been incredibly attentive, and it was really a pleasure to not have to be saying, excuse me, don't say that. You were great, thank you. I want to thank the Woodstock Democratic Committee for doing this. And I just want to read you a couple of things so that you know what's coming up, and then I'm going to address the candidates. So, the next forum is May 22nd, and it's on, again, the next three are solving key issues. So May 22nd, you'll be focusing on the environment, and that will be held here. May 31st, you will be focusing on housing and zoning, again here. Then on June 8th, you will be focusing on vision, management, execution, and accountability, and that will be at the Hornbeck Community Center at a different time from 10:30 to 12:30. And then on June 22nd, there will be a meet and greet here at Town Hall from 2 to 4. And I imagine, I actually heard, I think it was Ms. Moran said, oh, I wish I could say more to folks about that and more of a conversation, and you probably had that as well. Please come to the meet and greet, because that really will be the opportunity to schmooze and to really zero in on things that might have popped up now. So with that said, I now want to thank the candidates, and particularly I want to say that it's really tough being a candidate, and I am really impressed that you threw your hats in, and good for you, and I think come whatever happens on primary day, that you all should be proud, and I want to thank you, and let's give them a round of applause.